Alright, legend, what's up? Welcome to another episode. I'm just gonna fix this camera real quick. Perfect. Here we go. And I'm super excited that you are here, that you're watching to my first Feedback Friday. We are going in. I've got a lot of submissions for this feedback round. Pretty excited. If you have a submission that you want to put in, please use the link below. There's an email address that will send it through and we'll do it the next round. So for this round, I'm covered. I've got enough. We'll go through a couple of different ones. And I see Jonathan is in here. Saskia is there. We have Debbie. In lettering is really to actually learn from others and learn from what they do great and what they do bad. And it's not a way to see that something is positive or negative, more of a sense of what can I learn from my mistakes, what can I learn from what others did well in their pieces of work. So we really have to look at this in the whole sense and not just on a positive or negative scale. And I love a lot of pieces that we got, and we're gonna start off with a little piece here that I saw. And thank you again so much for all your submissions. I'm really excited about this. And we see, first off is Daisy van de Hoven, probably Dutch from the name, definitely is. If I spell any name incorrectly, please forgive me. That's not what I want to say. So let's go right in. So I have right here Daisy's work. Her Instagram handle is lettertypege or type, depending on how you pronounce it. And so the first impression is always a great impression to look at. We can look at here at this different piece. So she uses a lot of color, which is great. She also has a composition inside. She does it all analog, so she doesn't use digital pieces, so real brushes, at least that's what I see. And see, this is kind of how I depict things, how I see them, how I look at them. Now, I'm gonna dive right in, first into composition, see how it's balanced, then we're going to letters, see how she chooses her different pieces of letters and lettering and what she could improve there. I'm gonna try my best to actually improve that piece in a couple of steps, and maybe she can either redo it, maybe she can usually use it for another piece that she does, use that information to create something even more amazing. So let's see what we can find out. So number one, if I look at the piece, it's a composition. I see it's well centered. There is kind of an off balance line with these two pieces. There's a little bit more weight. And the way I can look at that really easily is by actually just making these pieces dark. And that's how I see kind of what is. And here as well, and then here. And so by just highlighting these pieces, you can already tell where something is working well, where something is going off. And so I hide these two, and you see where the balance is a little bit off, where the spacing is kind of lacking, and where you could maybe potentially improve it. And I'm talking hypothetically because she did a great job. She created something which I'm really excited about, and we're just trying to help her get to the next level and how you can learn from this. So in this piece, again, this box here has a little bit more space, so you could either use this by adding some ornaments more deliberately everywhere. So in that example, we could, I use red to kind of highlight this. That's an easy way. Then secondly, it's what I love is how great these lines are here. So she has some good lines in here, which is what I teach with the grid builder, with the letter builder, is really consistency in your work that you put out. That's really important. Then over here, the D, I know that the D is rounded, but since the B is kind of like a B normally would be this, and how she drew it, and if I look up here, she did the B kind of like a little bit down, which is perfect. Now the D, that's how normal D is. So I feel like in her example, maybe a D could have been more like this here. Like follow more the line that goes up, and that works. Just an idea. Then secondly, what I'm missing are these lines here. Because this line should be kept perfectly straight in a sense. And it didn't work on this piece here, unfortunately. The T, if you look here, the T could have gone a little bit further down or use that. But then the rest of the letters are spaced evenly. That is nice. There's a bouncy lettering effect going on. The K could have been probably a little bit longer, kind of like the length of the N in here. Also great. And I'm seeing that YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I hope you'll still get some images. There's a little bit of things not working out quite correctly. Let's see, this is a little bit jumpy. Hopefully, let me know in the comments if you're receiving enough footage from me. So there might be also just a problem with my CPU actually, that is improved. So if it was my turn to, like, if we pass it on and I would get this piece, how would I go about it? So I would kind of reduce the opacity for this one and would start on top, which is maybe make the T more interesting. I like to start with capital letters just because they're big and kind of like mimic the shape, and also just smooth that out. And then also just give it a little bit more space, like place it a little bit higher. Don't try to take it too close, because that's often a beginner's mistake, is trying to kind of like make sure that there's no space by just like making it too close. So lifting it up a little bit is a great way to do that. Here, A is not necessarily a word that we need to highlight. A second. Take a second to think. So take A would probably be more here for me. Maybe even just small cap. And I would change how it is. So that's how I would do it. And then I would use the size here that is perfect. Maybe even use the letter builder just to make it easier for me. And second here. And go around, and then just place that into center. Now it's easy to do that with the iPad, but you can also do a little trick, which is figure out how long the word is, know where to start. That helps also to do that. Then it's all about planning. So here, since we want to put a word here and here, so by the to and the about, we need to think of how we can place that right. So just to make a straight line works, but not necessarily as well. There's more of this bow and arrow, so we can utilize more of the space that comes in. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of. And so again, the T, and maybe just use another layer to kind of draw this out. Go back. And then because we have so much space here, I'll show you here that this could be, the H could actually make more of a loop and loop around, maybe not too much. And we'll just see what we can come up with. I'm just gonna raise these parts at the bottom. Perfect. Then the two can find space here. Again, make sure that the spacing between these words is always the same. Give it some room. Don't try to compress it all too much. This is pretty important. Now, the next part is the about. I might actually, you know what? I actually might go and scale this word as it goes up, and maybe try to find this line here. I'll lay it here, and then make sure that there's enough space, so that space here can help me out. and kind of mimic the same style that I have with the 2 and copy it here, put it back in the same piece. That's an easy way to do that. Then I like how the end looks. So kind of composition wise, we're on a great level. She has placed these pieces well together. That's easy for me to kind of just come in and just kind of improve that. And then use the how. Again, increase the size here, the how. Erase those help lines, guidelines. Again, place them on a different layer, or like if you're using tracing paper, use that. That's what she did before was actually pretty great, is to play this out, which could work. I'm just gonna hide the layer in the back here. Great. I'm not happy with this part, but we can fix that later. And maybe not this either. And so here we go. That's that, and blessed. Now you can think back again to the same style up here. Now something that I see a lot of beginners do is really to play around with the bouncy letters. A lot of people love this brush lettering style that she uses in here, and I feel like in composition it does not work that well. So I usually try to encourage people to stay off of this bouncy lettering, because it's really just something when you want to play with your brush, you want to have fun with them. But in a composition, it just looks smoother and nicer when the lines of the lettering is pretty straight. So if we hide now this piece, and again, it's just now a thing of weight, and if we add the same weight as second here, and here we can finish the eye. Adding the weight will really help to sell this. And again, it's all about making sure that the lines are in correctly here. I'm still not convinced that the best way to solve this here is to add these 2 words. At the moment, again, if you would add something like this here, this would definitely fill out the space pretty evenly. Here there might have to be something, and here instead of a capital letter, I definitely need to make that small, and maybe, I don't know, that is probably too much. Yeah, it is. Something like this. So, and now she can go back to the same style that she used in her work previously, where it's more colors, more filled out, and definitely a couple of different versions in this piece. So there's so much possibility in here where you can work this out, where you can play with the colors. And if we look at her piece, you see she did a really nice gradient. She used kind of the same blocks as the letters, but you see the difference is already pretty clear. If I put this in here and then kind of like go back, you see we've cleaned it up. And it doesn't take long to clean something up. It just takes a little bit of practice to kind of fill this out. And I think with the same structured line that she has, she had a really great build already. So you've done a great job, Daisy, on doing this. Definitely keep going, keep trying new ways to do something. And again, easy tricks to improve just this piece here would really be just to add some decorative elements to fill this out, and just so it balances off nicely in this piece. I hope this helps you. There's a second piece that you also submitted, this one here, and this one I really love. Like, it's the colors of fall. It is beautiful. It's bouncy, but again, maybe some elements here would just be too much. Like, there's not much to add or to subtract, but some elements I would take probably off, like this here, maybe play a little bit better. with, for example, let's see, I can just pick a color and then just draw something around there. Like what you want to do really with those ligatures is really to fill up the space in the best way, not necessarily to follow the line too close. Like I feel like this line is just too close. So what I would do is really just to, again, give it a little bit more space, breathe. That's pretty much what I've seen in the other piece that you've done that we just looked at. And it's really to give it more space. Like there's still space here, there's a little bit space there. And yeah, just some spaces to look at that you can see is give it here some room to breathe. But then the S is nice, I like that. You can even go a little bit lower. The P could go a little bit further back, so it's so much easier to read, and the M and the B a little bit spaced apart, and maybe not too many loops. Really make it more simple. Simple usually tend to be a lot nicer. And I see a lot of people joining in from Indonesia. I see Maria Oben, I see Veronica, a lot of people coming in here. This is awesome. And yeah, thank you so much for that. Yes, there are maybe a little bit of a confusion with the emails. I've added a new email, a dedicated email address for that, so that one is in the description if you need to look at that. Plus, maybe you heard about it, our new podcast is out on Anchor. This is the title image that you can see on Spotify, on Anchor. It will be out on different platforms as well. That's gonna be awesome. Have a listen this weekend, create something during that. Look at either my last, if you don't have any inspiration on what to do next, like check out my last piece. Boom, this is what we ended up with. Zurich, there's a lot of stippling. I've added a lot of pieces. Again, spacing, it's hard to read, I feel, but it's the spacing makes the difference and it's pretty fun. All right, next up we have, let's see, we have, I've written down the name, it's Daksha Giri. She has sent me a couple of pieces. I selected two. Again, I'm gonna pick out the one that I feel I can work the most with, that I can pull the most out of. And I see Andy, thank you so much for those €2. You're the legend. Thank you so much for sending me that. You're awesome. Also, I'm just gonna pull down these comments and push them to the side just so I can see those comments a lot better. Amazing. All right, Daisy, you're so welcome. Thank you for sharing that with us. It takes a lot of courage, and that's why I'm so excited about all these people who send me their pieces. It takes a lot of courage to share, to be open, to just give and not lose courage just because you're courageous on giving that out, and it's not necessarily easy to do that just like that. So let's go into the next piece. We have Daksha in here, and we'll switch to the camera again. So here it is. My tea suffers from iron deficiency. Again, a lot to do with spacing, a little bit the reading. How is the reading flow? So the first thing you look at is the reading flow. You start off, my is simple and easy. It works really great. The T is kind of like squished and combined in. The T is not necessarily really easy to read because it's a long strike here and something back there. The suffer is kind of like goes that flow from, and then iron deficiency. There are like some big jumps with the iron as well in it. And also my is really big, so it's kind of like focuses on me. Suffers is pretty, for me, if I look at that, and again, every artist will look at it differently. That's totally fine. And so what is really important to do is to kind of like figure out where to emphasize some words, make those big. For example, iron is represented really well. T is kind of like in those forms and in those shapes. So I would either look at maybe separating the word from the illustration, but I love that she used the illustration. That's pretty cool. And then also just trying to play with those spaces. Again, with the spaces, we're missing, see that I don't draw inside here and here. and kind of there's like, those are the pieces that are lost in this example. Now, again, I'm just gonna look at how I could easily improve that quickly. I'm just gonna hide the other piece there and just reduce the opacity. So I love the iron shape. I kind of want to keep this, but let's look at this again. So my smaller T, maybe we could, like, as soon as I see this, that I wrote out a big T, and then I had two letters and two letters, two small letters on both sides. That's where I usually would see that's a balance that we could use. But since the T should be kind of emphasized, I'm wondering if we either play it with just the illustration, like let pictures, symbols work as themselves and not necessarily having to add something, or then really like trying to create a letter out of this, like change the illustration into a word and then make it work. So you cannot really see this in this example here. But let's say I'm using the T here, the E, just connect that, maybe further, and then kind of go out here. Again, play around as much as you want, but there's an idea is formed. An idea is not necessarily bad or worse. You just really have to play with that. Yes, so White Iris Archive, you can email those to that email, but you can also use that email in the description. So back at it again, I would definitely try to go with the S lower, and then trying to keep these in lines, like either keep a line or really play around with the bounciness effect. So in this case, I'm just gonna go down again, create a new layer, just like play it out. Don't be afraid of really go at it with the bounciness, but it cannot just be one letter that just jumps off. Kind of make a rule out of it. And then you can play the whole thing with this style, like maybe the Y goes in here, the M goes up here, and then what about the T that jumps around, and so forth. Iron, a little bit larger letters, and efficiency, like a big D. Again, you see now it's becoming a style, and maybe the whole thing becomes like a shape. Maybe the O of iron can become the iron object that you want to use, because you could actually use the back shape of the iron, you know, where all these steam things are. So you have that in the background, and just play around with those elements as well. You could change the T here, and then same idea, kind of use the T as the shape of the t-shirt, like this. And already you create a new idea, new form. It's already completely different from what Daksha originally thought of, but this is a way to do that. Now that's more composition. Let's look at the lettering itself. So one thing that I would definitely look into is how the letters are formed. And let me just pull this one up here. For example, the serifs here, in my mind, in what I know from, they are a little bit misplaced. In how I know that usually serifs are on an M, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but this doesn't look right for me. And you only need to learn that once. So best way to try to find it out is go in the style, and I'll write a let's see, let's go back to the type. Let's write my this, perfect, even the Y as well. And that's how easy I like to figure out what works or what doesn't work, just to see what I can learn from this. So edit style, let's see if I can find, there we go. That's one way of doing a I, but let's see if we can find another. I feel like there's Bodoni. There you go. We don't have that either. Baskerville, no. So my assumption was right. That's a gut feeling that I get sometimes. I just probably thought that these serifs weren't misplaced. And again, you learn so much from looking at other fonts. For example, the weight, where the contrast is put on where the weight should be. That will help you. For example, the Y, it's from the left side down. And that is actually pretty easy to figure out. Like an M is drawn from the bottom side up, down, and the downstrokes, kind of like brush lettering, are always thick. That's kind of how you can figure out how to do it right. So thank you very much for this. And I'm just gonna pull this down over here, and that will give me kind of the way of correcting these styles. Now, to really, again, get the most out of it, to make it easy to read, the T here needs to be just a little bit. There could be a different style, and you could play longer with drawing the letters. For example, instead of just, it looks for me that way, and I'm just gonna say this way, it appears that one thing that you have tried to do is really just do one stroke letters. So example, that would be kind of for me to do this and this. And it's okay if you're doing calligraphy, then you're really trained into drawing like letters like an F, and kind of like put the pressure at the right point and know exactly when to move something. For example, a T and then an O, and kind of know where and when to apply pressure and when to release it, again, just to make it perfect. But in lettering, the way I like to see it is that we really work on crafting the letters. So drawing the letters itself. So again, I can choose to see how thick I want to have the letter, how rounded I want it. Maybe I want it really sharp and edgy, and that way I can really decide on how these letters are crafted. So this is the great thing about here. You could actually play around and add like not crazy serifs, but just a little bit to point that out. You can make it round, but the best way to do it is really to draw the outlines of the letters, or better say the inlines here. And then you could, and then I can play with the R, like the room and ability to play around with what I can do. So really for you, Daksha, to take this into the next level is really start playing around with drawing the letters, not just to do strokes and just to make it fast and easy, but really to play around. Again, make sure that you learn how to draw them once. Like you just need to know once that an M is a thin stroke here, and kind of like again, basically easy is, this is the skeleton. You add some serifs at the end, here and here, and then you apply the weight, which goes in here and on this side, and then suddenly you know exactly how to draw a serif M every time, all the time. And finally, just composition wise, make sure that you know where to leave some space, because there's no way for me to understand why the U is all the way up there and it doesn't make sense, and that kind of brings me or throws me off my game when I read this. Just it doesn't make really much sense. And the same way, like the t-shirt, I know that you've kind of followed those lines, but it looks unintentional. I feel like you just drew on suffers, or you started maybe from iron, then you draw the suffers, and then you added like another piece, and it just doesn't make sense in the whole, which could be the reason why. But hey, again, it's all about creating, it's all about trying. And I see this piece here, I see that you are drawing the letters, which I already really like. and you are playing with shapes and forms. You are adding some composition to it as well. And the only thing that I could add here is really to get those shapes right into the place, just so you get more consistency. For example, if you get the letter builder helps really to improve this consistency. And I can show you that why is, let's see, going to the letter builder, you are using maybe a condensed form could work. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. That is a little bit too big. And right there, I can bring them together. Those are probably 8. Yeah, those are 8. And I can move that up. Now, I believe that you are drawing digitally, so this should work for you. If you're not, you can print these out and use them on the background of a paper. That should help as well. And then you can see that your lettering will instantly improve with the consistency, because your letters will have the same space, kind of the, just need to switch to another brush. For example, here, you know, it goes out, that's nice, and it will go in, and then, you know, you follow these lines, and these lines, like, you will learn to work with them, and then to work without them as well. So I still use them from time to time because it's just more practical. Like, we built them because we use them, and we use them a lot. And again, I can use this as a way of drawing these letters out. And suddenly, like, all your letters will become more consistent in the drawing. And you can just easily, then in the next step, fill the pieces out, copy these letters again out. And then again, here with the T and the H, why not draw, like, why not look for ways to draw the in different ways, just so you can use all the space that you can possibly get. Pages is great the way it looks. Maybe just go a little bit further. Book is the same thing. Why not start with a capital B that goes around, the O and O, the K. Like, you already went back, which is amazing, but then also just go a little bit further back, like, play around. And so forth. You get the point. There's little improvements here that you can do, and which is great. So practice that, play around with this. You're definitely gonna have some fun. I definitely like that as well. So don't be afraid to try these out. Seek that opportunity to test it out, and we'll see how this works out. I hope that you got something out of this, that you learned something. And yeah, let's see. We have another one, and this one, Belinda is an amazing lettering artist. She sent me her Instagram handle for review, and I know her work. I follow her work. It's pretty impressive, and you'll see that. I'm gonna switch to the view again, to the iPad. You see how amazing her pieces are. Like, if I look at this one, this looks fancy. The cover is really, really well made. The balance is nice. Like, when I look at that, I can see already, like, perfection in the way it's made. It's set up and all that. So this is really great, Belinda. Great work. And now I can just see on that piece, and there's not a lot to add. And I tell you why. Because if we look at this, I'm gonna take a screenshot. Let me see. Like that. And let's see if we can play around in the note-taking app. Like, all her spacing everywhere is really great. Like, she keeps the spacing nice. It's an easy read that you have, like there, like perfect loop in the back here that goes around. Maybe I can see if I can just make that bigger. Yeah, exactly. You see that loop that goes in the back? Like, it's decent, but it gives you a flow from the reading. These elements that are floating in the air, the crackers, the cheese, they all have different colors and kind of complement that. It's like if you plate a nice dish like with fruits, then you have all the different colors, but the colors like combine itself and they make a pretty picture. It's having a couple different cups of coffee and on one table, and you take a picture, but there's enough pieces lying around that just makes it well balanced, pretty and nice to view. So yeah, this is amazing job, Belinda, really well done. I like that a lot, and this is why I feel like we can learn so much from pieces that are great, because they help us to learn and appreciate what we can try, what we can learn from these pieces. Like this one as well here, beautiful, like different stickers she's put on, and the sticker in itself works really well. She plays around with the letter style. She also plays with the colors. Like, look at her color palette, it just works really, really well, and that's why her feed is pretty, is nice and amazing to look at. Now, I reached out to her just before I went live. She retweeted or shared my Instagram story with the or Instagram post with the podcast, and I thanked her for that. And I looked at, like, I told her that I probably will take up on her design. Now I'm looking at one piece that I could maybe look at, and we'll see what we can do. Let's see. I really have to look at that. I feel like it's all a great style. It works really well. Again, she plays with the spacing right. She adds in all these illustrational elements, which are pretty and amazing. So really good job on that. And the only thing I could see that you could improve, Belinda, is really to actually go out of your comfort zone, go out of illustration, go out of things like draw something that you have not drawn before, mix it with an image, an actual image, mix it with pieces that you haven't done before, maybe even large scale, maybe a mural, something like that. Maybe some more strict font style, like you are still very free, kind of like playful with the letters. For example, in this one here, hot is like the HOT, they're a little bit big, small, and so on, so you don't really see how precise the letters are. The same with the at least, and it's still like they're all pretty playful and illustrative, and so it's a great illustration, or like a great skill for an illustrator to have to do some lettering. But if you want to push the lettering a little bit further, and maybe the illustration as well, is really to see how can I improve both, just a couple percent, not a lot, but just a couple percent. And if I would take this example here, let me screenshot this, and let's go back into Procreate, add a new file, photo, and I'll import this one here. And so you know what I mean is really this, at least, like, I'm not saying it's bad at all, but there are some font mistakes that you're doing that are small but in minor, and you can barely see them in the whole picture. But for example, the S should be a little bit thicker, the ending should be a little bit more precise, more rounded, straight, and already that would kind of change that. Maybe the spacing between the letters, the E could be a little bit shorter than the rest of the letters, the L the same way. And that's how you could play with these letters, maybe even improve this. It's still like really follow the lines like perfectly of this bow. So if I would take this line and then I would like just drag it down a little bit like that. You see already where these are a little bit affected. Your lines are a little bit here, it touches, here it goes over, here it's under, and it goes over and over. And so these are some small things, and it's really a detail, but it can help a lot. And if you are lettering to whoever you're watching this, you're looking at that as like, wow, this is amazing. Like, there's always room for improvement. I will show you a piece here, and like this here. Do not be anxious. The N is not the perfect N. There's really a lot to work with. The A is going out and going in. Of course, the details, if you look at that piece, are a little bit missing. The spacing could be also more precise and correct. The shapes of the letters and the thickness of the letters could work also a little bit better. So you see, there's a lot that I can improve and work on and just make better. Always room for improvement. Don't get me wrong. There's always something you can do. Now, I think we've done 3. Yes, we have. We have done Daisy, we have done Daksha, and we have done Belinda. Wow, I'm getting some memos here. Let's jump back to the main camera here. You see, there's a lot of things that we can do better, and we are already 43 minutes in. I hope you've learned something new. Again, spacing is really important. How do you space those letters? Then drawing the letters instead of just using pressure or the pen to just do a line. Like, that's writing. Lettering is really drawing the letter itself, and kind of like try out more on doing that. And another thing that you can really try out is kind of like improve the little things, the small things. It just might be 1% of your work that you need to improve, but imagine if you try to improve just 1% today, tomorrow you could be better. And I'm really excited that you are here, that you're watching. And so please, if you want to send your work, use the email in the description, send it there, and we will get back on next week. I'll try to be back on next week with another episode of Feedback Friday for you guys, and I wish you an amazing weekend. If you want to draw something this weekend and send it to review, that would be perfect. Listen to our new podcast. It's called the Thriving Artist Podcast. You'll see that link on my website, on my Instagram, and I would love nothing more than to have you again back soon. And we'll hopefully do more drawing sessions as well. I'm very saying that all hypothetically because I'm trying to be back live and do that more often, and just to entertain you guys, help you guys as well, just to help you guys draw more and do more creative things. And I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with. So see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.